In the closing years of World War II, the Pacific theater had seen almost every imaginable type of military engagement, from massive naval battles to island invasions. But one event stands out for its sheer audacity and uniqueness. Far from the well-documented amphibious assaults and aerial bombings, there was a moment when a U.S. submarine, typically confined to underwater strikes against ships, stepped into entirely new territory, literally. This submarine carried out what would become the only documented ground attack on Japanese soil during the entire war, and it did so by targeting something as unexpected as a moving train. The very idea of a submarine attacking a train might sound almost like a scene from a war movie. But this was a real and meticulously planned operation that revealed the creativity and adaptability of the Allied forces in the Pacific. The operation took place in the final months of the war, when the United States had already established dominance over much of the Pacific. Submarines were primarily employed to cut off Japanese supply lines, intercept convoys, and sink warships. But in this instance, circumstances aligned in such a way that a more unconventional target presented itself. The Japanese were transporting critical supplies along coastal rail lines. Supplies that could sustain troops and fortifications in areas that were increasingly vulnerable to American offensives. One of these trains, moving along a stretch of track near the coast, was spotted by the submarine's crew during routine reconnaissance. The crew recognized an opportunity not just to disrupt supply lines but to deliver a symbolic strike directly onto Japanese soil, something no other American force would do during the war. The planning for the attack required extraordinary precision. Submarines are designed to operate beneath the surface, not to shell or fire at land-based targets, so the crew had to adapt their tactics carefully. They used deck guns, normally intended for smaller surface targets, and positioned the vessel in such a way that the guns could reach the train with enough accuracy to cause serious damage. Timing was critical, as the train was moving along the coast and any delay could allow it to escape. The crew had to coordinate their observations, gauge distance, and account for variables like wind, terrain, and visibility. This was not just a test of firepower. It was a test of human skill, nerve, and split-second decision-making. When the moment arrived, the attack unfolded with dramatic efficiency. The submarine surfaced close enough to fire but remained at a distance that minimized the risk of return fire from any nearby Japanese defenses. Shell after shell struck the train, creating a chaotic scene that disrupted both the vehicle itself and the flow of supplies it carried. While the physical destruction was significant, the psychological impact was equally notable. For Japanese forces, the idea that an American submarine could strike targets on their own soil was alarming and unprecedented. For the submarine crew, it was a rare opportunity to engage in direct offensive action that went beyond their usual underwater role. This mission blurred the lines between naval and ground warfare, demonstrating that innovation and daring could create moments that defied conventional expectations of the conflict. Historians and military analysts have often pointed out that this strike, though small in scale compared to large naval battles or aerial bombings, is remarkable because it represents a singular example of how adaptable and inventive the U.S. forces could be. The attack didn't just hinder Japanese logistics. It also served as a morale booster for Allied forces, showing that even in a war defined by massive operations, there was still room for clever, unconventional tactics. It underscored the idea that warfare is not solely about overwhelming numbers or firepower, but also about seizing fleeting opportunities and acting decisively when they appear. In retrospect, the attack on the train by the submarine stands out as a unique footnote in World War II history. It reminds us that, amid the chaos and destruction of the war, there were moments of ingenuity and boldness that challenged traditional definitions of combat. A submarine, typically a silent hunter beneath the waves, became an instrument of direct land-based attack, firing on a moving target with precision and daring. This episode exemplifies how war can produce unexpected stories, ones that capture the imagination precisely because they are so rare and astonishing. For those looking to understand the Pacific theater beyond the usual accounts of island battles and naval engagements, this submarine strike offers a vivid glimpse into the daring and unconventional measures that shaped the final stages of the conflict. While the submarine's attack on the Japanese train is fascinating in itself, its true significance becomes even clearer when you consider the broader strategic and historical context. By the time this operation took place, the Allied forces were already closing in on Japan, and the Pacific theater had seen some of the most intense and large-scale battles of the war. Aircraft carriers dominated the seas. Amphibious invasions captured fortified islands, and long-range bombers targeted cities and industrial centers. In this environment, one might wonder how a single submarine striking a train could matter. Yet, this small-scale action carried implications far beyond its immediate tactical impact. It was not just a matter of destroying supplies. It was a psychological and strategic statement. A reminder that nowhere on Japanese soil was entirely safe, and that the U.S. military could project power in unexpected ways. Strategically, the attack disrupted Japanese logistics at a critical time. The Japanese war effort relied heavily on trains to transport troops, ammunition, and essential supplies across the islands, particularly as conventional shipping routes became increasingly vulnerable to submarine attacks. By targeting a moving train along a coastal line, the submarine's crew interfered with the transportation network that was essential for sustaining Japanese defensive positions. Even if the immediate physical damage was limited to one train, the effect rippled outward. Supplies were delayed, schedules were thrown into disarray, and the Japanese command had to reconsider the vulnerability of what they had previously assumed to be safe transportation routes. In this way, a single bold action had a disproportionately large impact on operational planning, forcing the enemy to adapt to threats they had never anticipated. Beyond the logistical disruption, the attack also carried enormous symbolic weight. The Pacific War was marked by fierce island-hopping campaigns and long-distance naval battles. So the idea of American forces striking directly on Japanese home territory was both shocking and unprecedented for the Japanese public and military. It was a startling demonstration that the war had moved from distant battlefields to their own doorstep. Even though this single attack could not alter the outcome of the war on its own, it illustrated a shift in momentum. The Allies were no longer just defending or conducting isolated offensives. They could reach deep into enemy territory, and they had the ingenuity to do so in ways that defied conventional expectations. The psychological effect of this alone should not be underestimated, because war is fought as much in the minds of soldiers and civilians as it is on the battlefield. Historically, this incident has remained almost a footnote precisely because it was so small in scale compared to larger operations. But it is precisely that rarity that makes it remarkable. It serves as a window into the creativity and adaptability of the U.S. military during the war, showcasing how forces were willing to go beyond standard protocols and think outside the box to achieve both tactical and strategic objectives. Submarines were traditionally stealthy hunters, confined to tracking convoys and engaging enemy vessels. Yet in this case, the crew adapted to a completely new form of warfare, turning a naval vessel into a tool for a direct land-based strike. This adaptability is a testament to the flexibility, resourcefulness, and determination that defined much of the Allied approach in the Pacific. The broader lesson here is also about the human element of warfare. Decisions made on the deck of a submarine, thousands of miles from the nearest major battle, can have ripple effects that influence larger campaigns. The courage and quick thinking required for this kind of operation highlight the often overlooked stories of individual crews who took risks far beyond the ordinary demands of their roles. It reminds us that history is shaped not only by generals and grand strategies but also by moments of ingenuity at the tactical level, where bold action intersects with opportunity. Ultimately, the significance of the submarine's attack on the train lies in its uniqueness and the multiple layers of impact it created. It disrupted Japanese logistics, sent a powerful psychological message, and demonstrated an unexpected form of operational innovation that still captures the imagination. Today, while it may not have turned the tide of the Pacific War, it encapsulated the resourcefulness, daring, and strategic foresight that characterized the Allied effort in those final years. For historians, military enthusiasts, and viewers curious about the untold stories of World War II, this event provides a rare glimpse into a moment where creativity met courage, and where a single submarine crew made history in a way no other American unit would replicate on Japanese soil.